recent announcement of Hayden Christensen's return to the Star Wars universe alongside Ewan McGregor in the Obi-Wan Kenobi limited series has sparked talk of the legendary duelists going at it one more time. Described as the rematch of the century, we can only hope that this tantalising tease is just a taste of the spectacle that is to come. Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Vader clashed blades at the climax of the prequel trilogy over 15 years ago. This epic duel saw their heartfelt relationship shattered as Kenobi was forced to try and stop his apprentice, friend and surrogate son. The newly christened Skywalker had become an enemy of the Republic.
Don't try it!
In Star Wars chronology, these two would be destined to meet again 19 years later, clashing sabres once again as older, if not wiser, men.
When I left you, I was but a learner. Now I am the master.
Only a master of evil, Darth.
This duel is incredibly important both in-universe and for Star Wars as a franchise. Vader and Kenobi meet at a time where the Master has all but given up on his old apprentice. They exchange far fewer words this time before they come to blows. Kenobi has no intention of saving Anakin's soul. His objective is to distract the Sith Lord just long enough for a new hope to escape.
I sense something, a presence I've not felt since...
You were my brother, Anakin! I loved you!
For Vader, it's a chance for validation, a chance to destroy Kenobi once and for all and restore his honour following his humiliating defeat on Mustafar that cost him most of his humanity in the process. Little does he know the true extent of what Kenobi is protecting. Anakin is meters away from his estranged son, a potential heir and accomplice for his darkest ambitions. But the Sith is bluntly unaware of what Luke Skywalker will one day do. He will one day opt to save him instead. In a similar sense to the first chronological duel of the series, many fates are tied to the outcome of the fight. If Vader wins, Luke and his newfound friends might not escape. Their incredible journeys across the original trilogy, the trinity that will lead the rebellion to victory, could be captured by the Empire, or worse, killed. For Kenobi to win, it only means keeping these Skywalkers apart. Survival is unfortunately not an option. Even at the end, Vader can't defeat Kenobi, not truly. In one of Star Wars' most memorable moments, the Jedi Master raises his saber and allows Anakin to cut him down. It's a traumatizing moment for Luke now, but later down the line this lesson from Kenobi will mean everything. Sometimes, for the light to shine through, it means putting down your sword.
I'll never turn to the dark side.
In the first lightsaber duels, Lucas was adamant that these blades would feel very heavy. You couldn't possibly use them one-handed. This, of course, restricted a lot of the movements and choreography. Obi and Vader mostly face each other head-on and simply meet each other's blades. At one point, Obi does a little spin. Ooh. But aside from that, the dialogue and the tension of Luke and the gang's escape holds much of the encounter together. Later, Lucas would reverse his decision, which gave way to much quicker and more bombastic fighting styles in the prequel trilogy. Stunt coordinator Peter Diamond was forced to teach the late great Sir Alec Guinness and David Prowse to swing their sabres without actually touching blades. This was because the prop swords were incredibly fragile and would snap at the slightest strike. It's a far cry from what Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen were allowed to do when it was their turn to train for an Obi-Vader duel, but of course the technology behind the props would only improve as time went on. The crappy carbon fibre rods would eventually be replaced with sturdier aluminium. Don't at me saying I pronounce aluminium wrong, we don't call it aluminum in the good old UK of A, okay? Hell, Lucas wasn't even going to use colour for the lightsabers at all. The decision to use blue for the goodies and red for the baddies transpired later in production. It's really awesome that we get to see what they might have looked like when we recently saw Ahsoka's lightsabers in live action. And whilst the first movie establishes the idea that only Force sensitives can truly wield a lightsaber with the elegance and precision that they require, Lucas considered arming Vader's henchmen with the iconic weapons as well. That's why the final design for the Stormtroopers feature this cylinder on their lower back. This would have been where the infantry units would store their hilts. Fortunately, Lucas decided to restrict it to the Jedi and the Sith. The logistics of bringing a lightsaber blade to the big screen is pretty standardised now, but for this lightsaber duel, much of it relied on agonising trial and error. Lucas initially got the production to use reflective rods, which would spin via a motorised mechanism within the lightsaber hilt. The theory was that it would reflect the stage lights and create the effect we are used to today. This failed horribly, and the decision to use animation was quickly decided upon. Even at that, it was tough to rotoscope the coloured beams onto the blades. The hilts were a relatively simple affair by comparison. Set designer Roger Christian created the Anakin Vader designs from recycled camera parts. The most complicated saber hilt was actually that of Kenobi's. It consisted of a whole different host of odds and ends, including Rolls-Royce and jet engine parts, as well as components from a British rifle grenade made in World War II. Wow, it paid off in my opinion, but that's only because the Kenobi saber is my favourite hilt design in the entire series. The technology to create the visuals of the lightsaber as well as the choreography have clearly come a long way since 1977, but the sounds of the saber haven't needed to evolve nearly as much. Star Wars pretty much nailed that 43 years ago. The man that created the iconic beeps of R2 and the humming engines of the Falcon, sound designer Ben Burtt, cited the lightsaber sound effect as the very first thing he came up with for the movie. Burtt had to craft the sounds for Star Wars as Lucas was writing the script, instead of frames from the finished cut. Burtt relied on Ralph McQuarrie's original concept art to guide him. As a student and part-time projectionist for USC Film School, Burtt was very familiar with the hum of the projectors in the booths.
And when I saw the pictures of the lightsaber and the artwork for the film, I thought, wow, I think that hum of that projector motor is just the right thing. So
this gave him a little idea.
And the other element came about by accident. I had a microphone cable that was broken partially, carrying my tape recorder across my apartment one day, and I went near the television set. The microphone picked up the buzz from the television picture tube and combined it with the projector hum.
To capture the sound of the lightsaber mid-swing, Burtt combined the sounds, played them out of a speaker, and then re-recorded those sounds with another microphone. By moving the microphone over the speaker as he was recording it, Burtt created a Doppler effect, thus making it feel like the sound is passing closer and further away. Dry ice hitting metal is what you hear when the sabers clash. Each film has seen new Foley elements and sound recordings tweaking the formula, but the essence of the incredible sound behind the lightsaber became what it is right here in the duel against Vader.
Now I am the master.
Only a master of evil, Darth.
A lot of people have asked me to do a video on the fan reimagining of this fight. SC38 Reimagined, or Scene 38 Reimagined. Published by Fix It in Post on May 8th, 2019, the concept takes the original bones of the very first lightsaber duel and amps it up to be more in line with what we've seen of these duelists in features like Revenge of the Sith and Rogue One. Basically, we get to see the fight as it would have probably turned out if it had been made in the 2000s. And yeah, I think it's really cool. It's incredibly well made. There's some really nice effects on display that add to the ferocity of the fight, like Vader catching fire, the blades scorching the corridor floors and walls. It's a really thrilling lightsaber duel. And there's not much else I can really say. I don't really geek out on it as much as some, but I applaud any fan's ability to take their love for the material and create something of their own making. What interests me most about something like SC38 is the fan response. There is a clear and present thirst to see Master Kenobi throw down with Lord Vader in such a frenetic style. For the longest time, we thought that Obi and Vader were reunited after a 19-year stint from Revenge of the Sith to A New Hope. This is also implied, but not confirmed by the line,
When I left you, I was but a learner. Now I am the master.
However, for the longest time I have been compelled by the idea that these characters cross paths at least once more. Back in 2018, when Full Fat Videos was in its infancy, I made a pitch for a Kenobi Star Wars story spin-off. In it, Kenobi is forced to go on the run after a price is put on his head by an unknown source, travelling to an old Jedi fortress, but crash landing on a hostile alien world instead. Kenobi would face a gauntlet of deadly bounty hunters and old foes from wars past, all intent on satisfying their grievances with the old Jedi Master and returning his head for an expensive reward. Surprise, surprise, Vader turns out to be the one who put the bounty on Kenobi's head. He turns up in the third act and the pair are reunited for an emotionally charged rematch. I know how this sounds. It sounds like fan service, a fanboy wet dream. But Kenobi facing Vader is a chance for him to go on an introspective journey that can serve character rather than spectacle. In my humble opinion, the only piece of the Kenobi puzzle left to tell is this. How did he get over it? How did he move on from the events of Revenge of the Sith into A New Hope 19 years later? The Jedi Master would have had a lot of time to reflect on his part to play in the rise of the Empire.
It was a Jedi Master who was responsible for the training and creation of Darth Vader.
It's a bit of a we need to talk about Kevin vibe. Kenobi has got to wonder where he went wrong, what he could have done better. Was he a bad father figure to Anakin Skywalker? Could he have done more? Every day for 19 years, Kenobi knows the state of the galaxy is only continuing to get worse, and he knows that he helped to make that happen. Kenobi helped to craft Vader over the years, just as much as Palpatine did. This raises interesting narrative questions. How does he feel about his identity as a Jedi? How does he feel about the teachings of the Order? Would he become somewhat disillusioned by them in the aftermath of the prequel era? And then, how did he find his way back? How did he renew his faith? How might his guilt have manifested? And perhaps, most importantly, if his surrogate son, his apprentice, his friend, was standing in front of him, trapped in a cyborg body after Kenobi himself slashed him to bits, what would he say to dear old Anakin? In any story featuring Kenobi between episode 3 and 4, the memory of Anakin would be at the forefront of his mind. It only makes sense to structure your story around it. Whether or not it seems obvious at first, to my mind, the story is hurtling towards the moment these two meet again. These are all notions and questions that don't really come to a head in the very first lightsaber duel, but that's because the story wasn't there yet in 1977. Now, Deborah Chow and the team on Kenobi have a chance to do something affecting, tragic, and beautiful. It's more than just a chance to swing lightsabers on screen and get the fanboy giggles. Make the untold story of the secret duel between Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Vader matter. Make it a part of the story between them that we can't live without once we've seen it. The very first lightsaber duel might not be the most frenetic, the most terrifying, the coolest, or the fan favourite, but everyone remembers it. It is the lightsaber duel that started the foundation with which many talented filmmakers, stunt performers and actors evolved the form. Slowly but surely, these duels tried new things, they gave us more complicated movements against more engaging backdrops, they made the environments part of the threat, they improved the technology behind the scenes. Well, if you want to hear me gush about all that, take your pick from these videos. Please. And from a narrative level, this duel marks the end of a complicated frenemy relationship that runs through the heart of pretty much everything from the prequel era. Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Vader kicked it all off for George Lucas, and it was these very same duelists who bookended his time with the franchise in his final Star Wars movie. We can only hope that the third installment in the Obi-Wan Vader dueling trilogy can stand as tall as these efforts. The Star Wars tracks in this video were very kindly provided by Samuel King Music. You can check out some of his awesome tracks over at his channel, the details of which are in the description below. I've just started making digital art on the Full Fat Videos Instagram. I'm currently a bit of an enthusiastic amateur, but I want to keep getting better, and I would love it if you came with me on this little creative journey. I post a lot of Star Wars art, Doctors as Jedi, Keanu Reeves, because of course. I've recently uploaded the original thumbnail art for this video, so if you want to see that, the link to my page will be in the description below. I've also just started dropping more videos on the Full Fat Podcast channel. You can catch fully edited highlights of everything we discuss, as well as reviews on all of the episodes of The Mandalorian each week. In the new year, I'm going to be posting reviews for every Clone Wars episode, week to week, so you don't want to miss it. The link will also be in the description, and I'd really appreciate it if you considered subscribing. Hi guys, Matt here. Thank you for watching another Full Fat video. Don't forget to click that subscribe button and hit the bell so you know when a new video drops. If you'd like to get in touch with me, why not follow me on Twitter at FullFatVideos or on Instagram at full_fat_videos. A big personal thank you to our Full Fat tier patrons, Dr. Chike, Jax Merrick and Cyrus Sulker. Your ongoing support keeps the lights on. Until next time, keep it full fat.